Did you know that India is adding a new millionaire every 2 days? Many reports say that it's an understatement because every 15 minutes there's a new millionaire in the nation. This rise of wealth isn't just about billionaires, it's about reshaping personal finance investment trends and the way Indians think about money. To decode this, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Anas Rahman Junaid. Hello, sir. Welcome. How are you feeling here?
Thank you, Lispi. I'm very well. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak about this.
So without taking much of your time, I would like to take your overall view on India's wealth landscape. How do you see the growth of India's high net worth individuals over the last decade?
Firstly, Indian wealth creation. So India is witnessing one of the fastest wealth creation stories in its history. When we started the list in 2012, the number of individuals that we were covering were about 100. And now, as we speak, the number of individuals that we found in the rich list with a net worth of 1,000 crores and above, it's about 1,540. And that's happened over the last 12 years. Of course, the first list was smaller and then we added the research and so on. Yeah. But one specific data point that I would like to share with you is that the number of US dollar billionaires. So in 2012, the number of US dollar billionaires in India that we could find was 59. Now that number is 334. So that's gone up by almost 6 times. And you should also think about the number of cities from these individuals are coming from, right? Cities, pin codes, I'll call it the pin codes, right? So when we started the list, we could find about 18 to 20 city or pin codes from which these entrepreneurs hailed from, right? But now that number is almost 120. So the wealth creation is happening across the country, tier 2, tier 3 cities and so on. Even age, right? The youngest in the list in 2012, he was 35 years old. And now the youngest in the list is 20 years old, right? And we have about 6 to 7 wealth creators who were born after the year 1990s, right? And today we put out a list called IDFC First, a private Hurun India self-made entrepreneurs, the millennial list. And there we are doing analysis of those self-made businesses founded after the year 2000. There were about 95 plus companies that are less than 10 years old, which has a cumulative valuation of roughly 13 lakh crores. And they employ about 1.2 lakh people. So this 10 years back, this valuation and this employment was not there. You can think about a Bangladesh stadium, which can house about 80,000 to 1 lakh people, right? That much employment was generated over the last 10 years by these companies. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that wealth creation in India is quite inspiring. It is across the sectors, across age group, across cities, self-made families. So everywhere the wealth creation is booming. That's quite exciting, right. And it is all an indication of how the economy should progress, because wealth creation is extremely important for economic development. Is the school of thought that I come from, because that can result in much more employment, societal development, even philanthropy, which is very much required for wider economic prosperity. So, all in all, great last 10, 12 years in terms of how the wealth has been created.
So, when we're talking about economic development and the contribution here, I have a question. In terms of growth, how does India's wealthy segment compare to other regions like maybe China or US?
Yeah. I think, absolutely bronze. When we put out the first Hurun Global Rich List, India was possibly the number 6 country or something in terms of the number of billionaires, right? But now, number 6 or number 8, if I'm not wrong, in 2012.
Okay.
Now, as we speak in 2024, we are number 3 in terms of number of dollar billionaires. First is US, second is China, then India. One interesting aspect is that China faced, in the last year's rich list, China faced a 25% reduction in terms of number of billionaires, whereas India gained 20 to 25%, right? So that is quite interesting and exciting from my standpoint. Again, what am I trying to do here? What I'm trying to tell you here is that most of the wealth of these individuals, right, the billionaires and super wealth creators, that's come from the underlying businesses that they grow, right? So what this clearly indicates is that more and more value creation is happening at a business level in India compared to what it was. And now I hear that the Chinese billionaires are sort of coming back and so on. But as of last year, we've totally increased the number of creators. And also one interesting fact I wanted to share with you is that till last year, Beijing was the billionaire capital of Asia, right? In the 2024 Hurun India Rich List, for the first time, when you put that out, Mumbai became the billionaire capital of Asia. We
Okay.
overtook Beijing. So it's quite interesting how these dynamics evolve. And and what I also think is that let's say if we have to compare India and China, where India is more a bottom-up sort of business value creation, where economy, the demand and so on, not really supported by the pushed by the government, which is a top-down approach, right? I do believe that our wealth creation is more stable compared to a market like China.
So you just mentioned 20% growth and there's 20% reduction, right?
25% reduction. Number of billionaires.
25%.
China.
Okay. So
Yeah.
are we seeing young budding billionaires in this? Are
Absolutely.
they making the difference?
No, not just budding billionaires, even traditional family businesses,
Okay.
entrepreneurs, first generation entrepreneurs, self-made tech. In fact, last 1 year, if there is one section who has faced some headwind, it is possibly the technology entrepreneurs because of the after effect of funding windows and so on. So 2025, as we are entering, hopefully when the after we see a few successful IPOs in the country, we had Zomato, Swiggy, and now MobiKwik. I heard has had this superstar like a blockbuster IPO. So when you see all these great IPOs happening, which can result in exits for investors, I am assuming there could be more liquidity in the market, which could result in an overall improvement in startup valuation. But the new age entrepreneurs, of course, are contributing. Even in today's list that we launched, almost what do we say? Almost 122, there are about $122 billion companies,
Okay.
right? And even there, the cumulative valuation of all the businesses that was founded after the year 2000 who could make it to the top 200 list, even the total value went up by almost 20%. So there is growth there as well. But to answer your question, growth is coming from across traditional businesses, family businesses, next gen. It's coming from all over the places. Yeah.
So you're saying the landscape is optimistic, right?
Yeah,
Optimistic.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
If you can
completely.
use just one word to explain how the wealth landscape of India will be in 2025, what would that be?
One word. Okay, okay.
Maybe one phrase, anything that you
Yeah.
feel you're more bullish on.
No, I've mentioned this repeatedly, which is India is witnessing one of the biggest wealth creation stories in its history.
Okay.
I mean, it is, and it will continue for foreseeable future, right? I think we've just seen family businesses, tech entrepreneurs. There is another segment of wealth creators that could come from the entertainment sector,
Okay.
of super wealth creators, investors, capital providers, professionals. There are so many
Okay.
legs that is to be
Right.
coming, right? Investment managers in the US alone, I think there are almost $50 billion hedge fund managers who are billionaire hedge fund managers who are in the US Hurun Global Rich List. India, we haven't seen that kind of level. That could come up. So many exciting variables that would play out in the next 10, 15 years.
What is exactly something that can drive the next wave of wealth creation in India? Or just to simply put, I want to know which are top 3 sectors or industries that are ripe for investment today, according to you, sir?
I'll give you one trend. For the first time since the last 12 years, the top three wealth creating sectors are from manufacturing,
Okay.
right? Be it chemicals, pharma, or industrial products, it's manufacturing. So that is quite inspiring. So till then, software and services had a place and everything, right? So, and we did an analysis of the top 20 sectors in the top 20 sectors and their CAGR growth over the last 12 years in terms of when this was launched. Every sector has grown in India. There's not one sector that has gone down. And out of the 20, all 16 to 17 sectors, the top sectors that produced a good CAGR of more than 10% was all from the manufacturing. So that's great. Even for last year, another interesting trend was the top the sector that contributed most number of entrants were from real estate. I mean, that
Okay.
sector is doing well. So
Okay.
it's interesting. I think what if I were to invest, I would just look at who the most interesting entrepreneurs are, and just if I like a sector, I'd go deep in. Then
Right.
I would invest. Yeah, but every sector in India at this point, to me, it looks interesting.
So you're bullish on almost every sector right now.
Yeah, of course. I'm absolutely bullish. I think when it comes to startup investing, maybe I would take a backseat on SaaS and
Okay.
which those sectors that could get impacted by
Okay.
AI and so on. But otherwise, generally, I'm very bullish on every sector. Yeah.
So you just mentioned that you are not an investment expert, but you are the right person whose observation in India's wealthiest would mean a lot for viewers, right? At least for those who want to replicate even a fraction of what a wealthy has. So if you could tell us what's one investment strategy that billionaires or millionaires follow, but early investors usually overlook.
See, if I have to speak about the billionaires and wealth creators, right?
Right.
What I've seen is they're all super focused about their business,
Okay.
and they all have extremely high levels of confidence that they would make much more returns investing in their own businesses than investing elsewhere. So
Okay.
it is that is one thing that I've seen across all the entrepreneurs, super focused till they reach a certain scale and so on. And then that's from an entrepreneur standpoint. But beyond that, it depends. It was someone like someone who was in a early stage of life who wants to create wealth. They might it would like possibly invest and take risk and all that stuff. But then when you reach what I've understood is when you reach a certain level of wealth, you might not want to, you will not possibly add a lot of risk to your portfolio. You would want to protect your capital that can beat inflation. So how they, yeah, if the question is how they create wealth, I think it answer is basically focus, conviction, and a lot of hard work. It is just a lot of hard work, and it might look so easy from outside when they come on media and so on, but I've seen them that they're all super hard workers. Yeah.
So they are super focused on investing in their own startups and businesses. That is right. But for an early investor, not everyone is a startup owner, right? For an early investor, what are the key things that they should do in the beginning if they want to, build a significant corpus for that reason? If
We're
you
talking about startup or stock markets,
investment,
any investment.
yes,
When I started, of
yes,
course, I try to be a part of a community who's into investing. I look at how they're doing, try to learn from there. Then I'm more of a researcher, so I look at the annual reports and all that stuff a little more deeply. Then I make investments. And one important thing is, especially when there are various asset classes, especially when you make an investment, let's say into startups, right? You should, if you have X amounts of cash, you should be able to allocate that percentage of whatever investable cash you have, and you should not. That money is that kind of money where you should not lose your sleep over, right? You should be
okay,
able to invest that money. Okay, you might get a return, but you should not think about it. Oh, what's happening with that money and so
yeah,
on.
right.
So when it comes to high risk asset classes where you want to invest, that is one yardstick that I follow. Then, if it's slightly fixed income and once that gives fixed returns, of course, and I would take a much more lighter approach. Yeah.
So what is your take on debt-backed investments? So taking a
Debt.
loan, debt-backed investments, as in taking a loan to create wealth by investing somewhere. Do you have any perspective on
Yeah.
it?
No, I don't do that, but I've
Okay.
seen a lot of brave hearts do it. And they some of them make money also, but I don't have the. I'm very conservative, so I don't do that. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the wealthy individual itself. But what is their, as in, what is their core financial portfolio like? Is it filled with real estate by any chance? Is it one of the core financial portfolio assets there?
See, one of the things that you would see in the that's common across once you reach a certain level of wealth is they have either their individual family offices or they have wealth
Okay.
managers like IDFC First Private who are advising them on what is to be done with the wealth. So what I've normally seen is where when there is an advice that is given, you'll have a portfolio of where all you'll have a portfolio of real estate, stock, gold, all those things.
Right.
We also did a survey with the Indian millionaires just couple of months back. So in that survey too, I think the top allocation of their money is in their own business. Then
Okay.
it was between real estate and stocks,
Okay.
stock markets and so on. Then their private
Right.
investments too. But the most important allocation of their capital was towards their own businesses.
So basically, many billionaires have got that net worth because of their own startups and businesses, right?
Their
So,
own businesses, yeah. So
yeah,
yes.
right, right. So, what would you suggest to a person who is just starting out and is planning to, build a maybe small business? Is there any formula of starting up and scaling that business? Anything that you have observed in the wealthy segment of the country?
No, see, I think we're talking about starting up. So we what we have seen, let's say I invest in startups too.
Right.
What I've seen amongst these amazing startup founders is that who've done very well is the focus on value creation for their customers and also for the shareholders, which is reflected in their how they report their numbers on a quarterly basis and everything, right? So I think when you're the one quality that, of course, stood most of these guys apart was that the integrity factor, then
Okay.
hard work, and the market size thereafter. So, if anybody is starting a business, I think this breed of individuals who are super well creators, they're all very well researched. They know what they're getting into. They understand the risks. They're willing to take a hit, and with the hope, if there is even a slight 2% chance that something can be successful, and they would possibly bring out variables that can help them make the 2% 100%. So that's
Okay.
what the quality of these entrepreneurs are.
So what about the spending habits? Because it is believed that wealthy people have a different approach towards spending money. So is it true? Is it true? What have you observed in
Well,
this?
I'm sorry.
So rich people have a different approach towards spending money, which other ordinary people don't. Is this true?
No, I think it's a personal choice. I've seen some entrepreneurs who do not spend so much. Some of them spend, but then I don't have much data to back it up. But then, yeah, I think they're very conscious. I think the good entrepreneurs are very conscious about what their income levels are and vis-a-vis what the expenses. Of course, they will not overcome that. I've seen some entrepreneurs when the business is going through a toughest of times, so they take a lot of sacrifices despite them traveling in Bentleys just a couple of years earlier. When the business needs them to be frugal, they turn into the frugality mode, lay down and then work really hard. And once they get back, of course, they would get back to spending money. But it's again it's a very basic law that basic rule that you have to uh, understand what your income is and spend accordingly.
So, but I really want to know if you had to, describe the future of wealth creation, not in 2025, not in 2025, maybe 10 years down the line. What does Hurun India foresee?
No, I think all these sectors that we spoke about, it's going to grow, right?
Yeah.
Because of one important trend that because of the rising income levels of Indian people, which means their ability to spend. So overall, there will be a growth. But I would like to see us India having a say in, let's say, a space tech opportunity, let's space tech opportunity or an EV, right?
Right.
The new energy opportunity. These two, of course, we will have some bit of say, and we might see a lot more wealth creators coming in India because space tech is a regulated, as I understand, regulated sort of business. So you can create wealth here. And EV is also a lot of domestic kind of demand. So you can see a lot more new energy company coming from India. But one concern that I have is on the AI startup founders, right? We need to get our AI entrepreneurs to be in India, right? So you have, let's say, the founder of Perplexity, who's an Indian who's been to the US, It's
Right.
created almost $9 billion business, right?
Okay.
So it's another the ChatGPT competitor, which could have been in Indian, which is now being built in US.
Right.
One of the companies that we were giving term sheet to invest in. And just after we gave the term sheet, the next day he got an admit from Y Combinator, and he just packed his bag and they packed the bag and went to Y Combinator. So somewhere down the line, there is a perception, or maybe that is a reality amongst the entrepreneurs building in AI that US is the place to be, and these guys are getting dragged on to the US. So there is an opportunity to somehow get them to stay here and build here.
So I did not
Is it better
understand
now?
what is the concern in AI startup. Do you think there is some hindrance in their growth, or what exactly is the concern? I didn't get you.
No, I have a feeling that there's a perception, or maybe it's a reality, that the AI, the entrepreneurs, they might find it better to build an AI company in the US, right?
Okay.
So you see, if
Okay.
there is some way to market them and get them to build here, that'd be amazing, right? Just to give you an idea, right? If you look at the top 10 richest people in the US, right? All of them are from technology companies, except I think maybe all of them are from tech, except maybe for Walmart. Everybody is tech, right? You take a Bill Gates, you take a Mark Zuckerberg, you take an Nvidia, you take a Larry Ellison. Okay, Warren Buffett is an investor, but otherwise it's mainly from tech companies, right? So, which means that tech is going to be the biggest value creator, has been the biggest value creator in the US.
Right. Right.
And considering India's demography and stuff, in 10, 15 years, I do believe that in the top 10 itself, we'll have five tech startup founders,
Okay.
right? So that is going to be one interesting thing, and I hope some of them are at least some AI companies, multi-billion-dollar AI companies being built
Right.
in India. So that's one thing that I kind of foresee. Yeah.
Right. And what about the future of family-owned business, sir? So,
Yeah.
because we all are bullish on startups and also investment in equities, but what we talk less about is the family-owned business. But you mentioned in maybe the second answer of yours that even family-owned businesses are growing. What do you foresee, if you can give me a number of growth that you foresee?
Yeah, so family businesses, we in the Hurun India Rich List, if you look at the number of entrepreneurs aged 60 and above, and if you add up the entire that value of the wealth, right? So that comes to almost 1.3 to 1.4 trillion dollars in
Okay.
terms of the value, right?
Okay.
Which means in the next 10, 15 years, this wealth is going to undergo inheritance, which means India is going to witness one of the biggest intergenerational wealth transfer the next 15 years. So what happens because of that? Of course, the number one trend is the next gen leaders are going to play a very, very active role. So you'll see more and more young blood. And in the next gen, a lot of women leaders would uh, participate more. And it is very evident in the case of, let's say, in the case of Reliance, Ms. Shambani is in charge of retail, or Ms. Nisaba Godrej in Godrej. So you would see a lot of women leaders taking a leadership roles in these businesses. Then number two that I see is the rise more and more importance of professional managers. So professional managers are going to play a huge role
Okay.
in the family run once the transfer happens. And the capital providers, the fund managers and investors who are helping this family business grow to the next stage, they're going to create a lot more wealth. And sometimes we just compare with startups in terms of how startups have created wealth. We were just checking in. I think during the Flipkart, when it got funded to when it had the exit, when it got funded to the current valuation, I was comparing with investing in Avanti Feeds, the family-run business, around the same time frame. It has given much higher returns than the India's poster boy startup story. So some of family businesses are definitely value creators, wealth creators. It's
Right.
continued to grow. And they kind of know the law of the land. The next gen entrepreneurs are being very active. They see the opportunity. One interesting thing is the next gen entrepreneurs are getting educated outside of India, coming back to India with the best practices. So all that's going to play up a huge role in how family businesses are going to contribute to the economy.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have anything like, is there any way that traditional way of building wealth is changing, and you can see that something is driving more and something is being stagnant and it will vanish in some time?
One interesting trend that I'm seeing in India is that the next gen leaders are quite upbeat about what is happening in the country, right? Take any group for that matter, right? They, for example, Reliance is a great example. It was a oil energy conglomerate. To what it has become now, it has become a geo technology, geo which literally fueled the startup revolution, one of the important factors for fueling the startup revolution in the country, or the retail choice of bringing luxury to India. So if you look at how how the family business are evolving, I think the next gen has a key role to play in it. Um, I think they are taking one company which is into fluorochemicals, right? I think they have now. I was at their analyst presentation, and they came out and when they were making a presentation, it was so amazing. They were just focusing on three things. They were just saying they're going to supply chemicals for use cases around semiconductors, 5G, and EV. Like that's all sectors of the future, right? And they're consciously reducing their older the previous legacy customer base and focusing on these three areas. So the next gen is playing a huge role. The professionals, right? Indian professionals, we have the best brains in the world. Some of the top companies are led by Indians. And so Indian professionals leading the Indian businesses, that is also playing a huge impact. So I don't think you would see a phase where you get one family business getting obsolete, if it has been run ethically and it's run with a very good team.
So lastly, if you can briefly tell me about the future of wealth, which you have already mentioned a lot of times, but I want you to give us a particular number for the wealth creation landscape of the country for next 10 years.
The number of billionaires have, of course, grown from 59 to 334. And as I said, for India to become a developed nation, people always say that when India becomes a developed nation or doubles the GDP, for instance, we'll have many billionaires, right? And that's what people say. But
Right.
what I'm saying is, we need to have many billion-dollar companies for India to hit or double the GDP, right?
Right.
If there are many billion-dollar companies, it's inevitable that we'll have a lot more billionaires or super wealth creators in the country. That's going to grow for sure.
Okay.
So my prediction is in the path of the doubling the GDP
Right.
in whatever time frame that we have. When that happens, the number of billionaires will at least be 500 in India, and the size of the rich list could even go up to 2,500 or even more. That we could even 3,000. So the threshold to enter top 10, top 20, everything is going to increase.
Okay.
So but inevitable that the billionaire strength grow in India. As my underlying assumption is that India is going to hit or double the GDP. I mean, that is what's been said, and that cannot happen without wealth creation happening at the ground level.
That is great. That is great, sir. Thank you so much. It was very nice talking to you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.